Hi there, welcome to Stoked to be here. My name's Laura. I'm the back half of Stellar Tandem, a record-breaking attempt to cycle around the world on tandem bicycle in 2022. And we've started this podcast to speak to people from the worlds of endurance and cycling to get tips and tricks for our journey along the way. And today I'm joined with Vedangi Kulkani, who is the youngest woman to cycle around the world. Well, she started off age 19 and finished in she's 20, going the total distance around the world in 159 and 160 days, Vedangi. And I was going to ask you a bit more about that later. But yeah, welcome to Stoked to be here.
Thank you for having me. It's great chatting to you.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an amazing feat, and I know it's technically not verified by Guinness and things like that, but you've obviously got a lot of information out there from your blogs and your Instagram, and it was an epic trip. We'll go into that in a bit more detail to begin with, but yeah, first, why have you put 159/60 days? Is it because you kind of fell in the middle there, or was it a technicality?
Well, the truth be told, I had to give a press release in Indian press before. So my 29,000 kilometers finished at Kolkata, and the last leg was like flying from Kolkata to Australia. And then obviously there's this time difference and everything. And I really wasn't sure what was happening when I would reach. So for the press release, I said 160. So, and then when I got there, I didn't know which time zone I had finished in, technically. And then like from start to finish, when I count the days, it's 159, almost 160. But then for the press release, it was 160 because I didn't want to sound like, oh yeah, I did a day quicker than what I'm saying. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, a day is fine. I can live with that. It's fine. 160. Take it.
But it's still, it's an absolutely amazing achievement, particularly, it's just because you were the youngest women as well. So yeah, it's tremendous. And I just want to know, first of all, like kind of a bit of your background. How did you get started? I mean, how on earth do you get on this track to be the fastest young woman around the world?
I have no idea. So, well, I do kind of a little bit. Basically, I used to play football, and that was my thing. And the idea was that was going to be my life. So I used to play for this team called Pune FC, Pune Football Club, and I was going to move to the UK, get my international coaching licenses, get my degree in sports management, and then move back to India and, start my own goalkeeper coaching academy. That was going to be my life. What happened instead was that I was in this kind of camp for like, I think it was a national level football camp. And I was meant to go for this bike ride across Indian Himalayas. So there's this route that goes from a place called Manali, which is at 5,000 feet, to Leh, and then to Kardimla, which is like 18,500 and something feet. And it's meant to be this highest motorable pass in the world. Then come back to Leh, and then go to Srinagar, and I don't even remember how long it's meant to be, 700, 800 something kilometers. Anyway, I was meant to do that with a group, and then realized that I can't because I am 17 and you need to be over 18 to do stuff like that. So I said to my dad, I was in this camp, I called my dad, I was like, do you think I can do this? Like, can I do this by myself? Because it seems I can't do it with a group. And as it turns out, like, dad was like, yeah, cool, like, I think you can do it. And so basically I came back from this camp. I figured out I wasn't going to be selected, never mind. Came back from this camp, and dad and I he used to be on his moped and I used to be on a bike, and we used to just casually go for like an 80-kilometer ride or something. and he used to be like, he didn't know if I could ride properly, but my first proper long ride was 100-mile ride.
Oh, wow.
And the friend mentor who suggested that, he made it sound like really easy. He was like, right, all you have to do, leave from your home, you have to go to this hill station called Mahabaleshwar. It's 148 kilometers, probably a little bit more from your home. And just your parents can be in a car, you can be on a bike, and you have a good bike and you'll be fine. You know, he just made it sound like it was not a big deal. And when someone says things like that to you, you think it's not a big deal and it's just around the corner. So I got my parents in with that, and they were driving and I was riding, and there's like a few like big climbs along the way, so that was like meant to be, you know, the what's the word for it, the initiation of, you know, like can she climb up hills kind of thing. And to my parents and my surprise, it was fine. I was actually able to ride that all right. What didn't work out was that I got to this place, to this hill station, and I wasn't able to pee because it burned, because obviously I got saddle sores.
Oh no.
That's what happens when your first big ride is 100-miler,
Yeah,
rather than anything less.
There's been no gradual building up.
Yeah, it was quite funny. Anyway, after that, I learned how to use. Also, I didn't have a padded shorts back then. You know, I didn't know how to shower, so I didn't know that it could have been better if I'd tried. So that was like a very funny experience, which turned into, maybe you've been able to do this. Maybe you can do that long ride across Indian Himalayas. And anyway, actually ended up doing that with my parents were in the car, but this time they were like, we will see you at the end of every day, or, you know, something like that. So because they thought I was still 17, I'm still like basically a kid. Like they didn't quite trust me with being able to take care of myself. And those mountain ranges, like those mountains are tough. The weather you would find at the bottom of the mountain, on the top it would be entirely different. It would be snowing, there would be hailstorms out of nowhere. And me being me, I would get cold all the time. And obviously I didn't know what riding in real mountains can be like. So my parents and I made a deal. They would be there. They would meet me at end of every day or whatever. But I would get to do the ride by myself. So that was really cool. That was like a great experience in having a little bit of that, you know, having something to fall back on, but also knowing that I'm by myself on this road. I have to ride by myself for all these hours up this mountain, and it's a 20-kilometer climb or whatever. And I have to make sure I make it, you know, make sure I ride. And also it was really cool when sometimes my parents used to like pass me, like, you know, and I was like, when they see me, I should be riding. I should not be off my bike. So I had that thing in my head that I really, really wanted them to believe that I'm a good, like I can ride my bike and I can look after myself. And that was quite funny. But there was a little bit where I didn't ride because my dad's health was really bad, and like we needed to go to like a lower altitude. And it was only like, at the time I made such a huge deal out of it. I was like, this is the end of the world, everyone's gonna think I'm a fraud, blah 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 blah. And basically it was like a 40-50 kilometer section. So it wasn't that big a deal, and I was just being dramatic anyway, and that was fine. And come think of it, that should have been the focus of that anyway. You know, like if my dad's ill, you don't get, you know, another dose.
Yeah.
Probably, like, come think of it, I was being really selfish, my god. But anyway, did the ride. I had to cut it short at Dras rather than going all the way to Srinagar. And again, that wasn't that much of a distance from Dras to Srinagar, but then there were some riots happening in Srinagar. So my dad was talking to someone from the Indian Army, and like obviously on that road there's tons of army trucks, and they just said like, even accidentally, if you get hit by something, like, oh, that would be horrible.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what was the word they used, like uh, shot by something. I don't know what that was, but anyway, it was quite risky apparently, so didn't quite go further. But that was like the beginning of everything. And I came to the UK thinking, I've ridden my bike across Himalayas, and I had turned 18. I just turned 18. 5 days after I turned 18, I came here. I did not know anyone in this country. I I did not know how to get from Heathrow to Bournemouth. It was really funny, because I had this bike bag, big rucksack, and a suitcase, and yeah, came here, and I was like, how do you, how do you use public transport, or how do I get from Bournemouth station to where I'm meant to live for the year in Boscombe, like there were these small things that I really didn't know about. And as it would turn out, those little things that I did not know would be what pushed me to do this other ride, which was from my home in Boscombe at the time to John O'Groats. Again, I barely knew what I was doing. This is £100 bike that I have. It's still there in my living room. And I had this Apidura saddlebag. And I had this, my dad's really old backpack. So I put what I could in the backpack and what I could in the saddlebag. And I was like, oh, I've signed up for London-Edinburgh-London. So to train for it, how about I just go for this 400-kilometer ride to London and back from Bournemouth? And that's roughly 400 kilometers to there and back. So, that would be good practice, and I can really see what I can carry with me. But what happened was that, long story short, I got invited into this beautiful, there's this beautiful family who I ended up chatting with, staying over at. And when they asked me where I was going, I said I was going to John O'Groats, for no reason whatsoever, because I just didn't want to sound silly saying, oh yeah, I'm just going back to it. I didn't want to be that person. So I said John O'Groats, and then they asked me for the route, and I told them how I was getting there. And yeah, basically, I didn't have any sleeping gear with me, but I also didn't have any money to pay for hotels and hostels or anything. So I was just knocking on people's doors and really depending on the kindness that I might or might not receive, and sleeping under bus shelters mostly. That was like my go-to. I didn't even have a down jacket at the time, so I would just I barely had any layers, and for more than one occasion I remember being like really, really cold and thinking, this is it. This is how I die, under this bus shelter with my bike next to me. And yeah, anyway, it was like when I got to John O'Groats, I remembered like the whole journey from Boscombe to there. And I was like, I was reading this book called This Road I Ride by Juliana Buring on my Kindle.
Yeah, I know
And
it.
yeah. And obviously she was the first woman to set that record, to circumnavigate the globe on bike. And when I got to John O'Groats, I was thinking to myself, I was like, that's really cool, isn't it? Like, can I do it? Like, what do you need to do if you want to sign up for something like that? And that's where it all kind of began.
All
like,
spiraled out of all control.
Yeah, that like it kind of it went from that, going out from that football camp and deciding to do this big ride across Himalayas, to coming to the UK and riding across the country, to then thinking, hey, you know what? I think I can depend on myself. Like, I can rely on myself. I think I'm a responsible human. I am a responsible, just turned adult. Maybe I can think bigger. And yeah, that's where it kind of all began.
Oh, that's amazing. And it sounds like, I mean, it's, it's mind-blowing to think that you're 17, you're riding across the Himalayas, you're like dodging bullets, and you've just had so much
Well,
life
it didn't
experience.
quite, did I?
Not quite, but you've had so much life experience already. And then just to, have that independence to go off by yourself. I think a lot of people miss out on that nowadays. Particularly like in the UK, everybody's so closeted. It's like you can't go out for a run by yourself, you can't go and do anything by yourself, there are boogeymen in the bushes. Whereas, for you to go and do it's just, yeah, so inspiring. And I love the fact that your parents were so supportive, and it feels like nobody was ever telling you no, nobody was telling you what you couldn't do, so therefore you just went and did it. I think, yeah,
I think that's so important. Like, I think that's such a privilege that my parents have been like that throughout my throughout my childhood and stuff. They've always been like that, and they've always supported me with my decisions and really put in a lot of trust in me. And as a kid, I really appreciated it, and as an adult, I also really appreciate it. It really helps me become responsible, because I feel like when someone throws a lot of doubt at you, you start doubting yourself as well.
yeah.
And that's why I struggled a lot when everyone apart from my parents, well, not everyone, but when there was like a lot of external doubt around um oh, like, is she going to be able to do it, like, is she going to be able to get to the start line? And my parents were always just like, yeah, no, you'll be fine, just apply for the visa, you know how to do that. And it was kind of like that, and that really helped.
Yeah, and it's I do wonder, like, how much coming from like a different cultural background, moving to a completely new country, you must have learned like quite a bit about different different cultures, different ways of life in different countries, and I feel like that must have led you in some good stead along the way too. But going around the whole world is a different kettle of fish entirely. How did you even start planning? Where did you even, I mean, it was, I kind of, we settled on this idea, and I was like, I might buy a map of the world, and I noticed you've got one on your wall too, but there's a little bit more to it than that, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. For me, the important thing was, when can I do it? Because 2018 was meant to be my placement year in university. And for some reason, I was like, yeah, I can do it in my placement year. And it was within a year of when I came up with the idea. So I had to like go and talk to people in the university and be like, hey, look what I'm doing, kind of thing. Not everyone agreed, but most of the lecturers were super
Oh, that's
supportive, and
great.
it was incredible. Like, a lot of credit to Bournemouth University, the staff and the crew at their, what's it called, at the gym, no, at a sport BU, that's what they call it. So sport BU is meant to be like the whole physical activity department, sport and physical activity department. And they were really cool with like just letting me use all the equipment. And bear in mind, I'd never had that level of support in terms of training.
Yeah.
So just knowing that your university supports you with your decision was like, it was great. Yeah. They helped me with putting together a training plan. They let me do strength and conditioning literally whenever I wanted. Like, there was always like there were always these sessions happening for different groups of people. And there was one with there were 2 a week with the cycling club or the climbing club. And obviously I would go for those, but then if I thought I needed to train more, then I would just be like, hey, can I go for this sports scholars session or something or another? And they would just let me use the space, and it would be really cool. Or even, I did not know at the time the concept of turbo trainers or watt bikes, or even the what are those bikes? The ones in gym, they play big, like, proper music, and you kind of go with the beat.
Like, spinning
And
bikes.
spin bikes. There we go, spin bikes.
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't know a lot about those things. So it was new to me. I used to use the spin bike. Like I used to, I tried to train with it, having no clue what I was doing, and I didn't want to go to the classes. So what I did was, um, I looked, I tried to see what was the most difficult level you could put it on, and then I would just try and be like, oh, can I do the most difficult thing?
That's
And try
exactly what
and,
I do. Yeah.
yeah, try and maintain the cadence and do it for like half an hour. Like, how long can I do it for? And then I would figure out how long I could like do it for, and then try and just increase that a little. Again, like I could have made it easy for myself and just asked someone how to train properly. You know, as a as an 18-year-old, I was a bit of an idiot and I didn't want to take help. So I don't know. I can't explain that bit. I was just a bit stupid. Anyway, but yeah, that was like the first kind of part where talking to people at the university and letting them know, but also talking to my parents and letting them know and being like, hey, yeah, so I'm doing this thing, a bike ride around the world. It's 29,000 kilometers, if not more. And I don't know, I want to do it in 100 days. I want to like break this record. Doesn't seem too bad. It's like, yeah, probably 300 kilometers a day or so. And that was my approach towards it. And my parents were like, my dad was like, yeah, okay. And it was pretty late in the night when I told him that. Woke up in the morning and dad had sent like a lot of articles about people having gone around the world solo, unsupported, this and that, and and the Guinness World Record, what's it called, the website. Yeah, he sent me the website and he was like, here's where you can apply. And basically he sent me all the research that I should have done. And I was like, who's this Mark Beaumont person? He sounds cool. Maybe I should get in touch with him. So I did. And he was so helpful. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
he's amazing.
Oh my, he's incredible with it. And yeah, I remember going to Kendall Mountain Festival to see him, and I ended up chatting with him and Sean Conway, sharing views with them. And at the time I didn't even realize how much of a privilege that was, I suppose. But yeah, like, yeah, learning from the legends how to ride a bike around the world, that was something else. That was really cool. And also, like, there were so many people. Sarah Uten was one of them. She invited me at her home and gave me so much advice on how to basically stay alive, which was super helpful. Honestly, Sarah is a legend. Like, yeah, she was so open, honest, and vulnerable with her experiences, and this was really cool. Like, yeah, I love Sarah. But yeah, like that was kind of, I spoke to quite a few people who I also spoke with Juliana. And
I'd love to speak to her
actually,
as well. Yeah,
Emily Chappell got me in touch with her, and she was super helpful with all this as well. So yeah, all in all, that's kind of how it all started, just talking to a bunch of people who, again, at the time I didn't realize the privilege it was to have them on my WhatsApp or something. I really did not realize that.
Quite a list.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now I realize they are all a big deal. But yeah, it was really cool, and they really helped me recognize what to expect. But then at the same time, what I realized when I started doing my own research and planning for this, that I'm gonna need a visa for every country that I enter, every single country. Not just Russia, every single country from start to finish. And the visa logistics are a nightmare.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I hold an Indian passport, so I needed a visa for pretty much every country. So Australia, the countries I crossed were, I started and finished in Australia. Don't ask me why. Once again, my 18-year-old brain at work there, where I was like, oh yeah, so I can start an Australian winter, go across in New Zealand, and then Canada in peak summer. And I had this really wild imagination of what I was expecting out of this. Anyway, so started and finished in Australia, across Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Iceland, Portugal, Spain, France, Belgium, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Russia, India, and then back to Australia. Oh, Netherlands, a little bit of Netherlands, literally very, very tiny section. But yeah, basically all of those countries except India needed a visa.
Oh my goodness.
But that was like a whole other story in itself, because I could get the Australian, New Zealand, and Canadian visa before, and Russian as well. But my Schengen visa, I couldn't apply for yet because it was still valid a little bit, but they you 1 year visas, they issue you 3 month or 6 month visas.
Yeah.
So if I was to start and finish in Schengen region, I would obviously have to apply for the visa before, but then I wouldn't be able to apply for the Canadian visa just yet, because you have to wait for a certain number of days before your date of entry in that country to apply for the. So for some countries it's 60 days, for some countries it's 90 days or whatever. But because of the logistics of that, I couldn't apply for the Schengen visa yet. And the only country I could actually start from then was Australia, because it was e-visa for Australia and New Zealand.
So it does kind of make sense, doesn't it? But yeah.
It does, but it was a lot of mental mathematics to get to that point. We're like, where is it pre 90 days, or what if it's more than 90 days that it takes me to get there, and then even if I have a visa it wouldn't be valid, so like what's the point? I'm spending like 300 quid to get that visa. For Russian visa I had to reapply because it was a lot of things happened in between Iceland and Spain, which meant that I was pretty slow, and I couldn't go to Russia for the date of entry. Like I missed it by a month probably. So visas was like such a nightmare. In Canada, at my halfway point where I wasn't like 55 days, so at that point I was bang on the time to get that record. And it was what, like 9,020 miles, 55 days. I was tired. I was like, just I didn't quite, I would have thought that by that time I would get used to it, but I was just tired. Like that's all I remember from that day. When I got there I was like, oh yeah, I'm in Ottawa, this is my halfway point, and all I want to do is sleep, which I did for like 14 hours. But it was my 20th birthday and I had to apply for my Schengen visa. And I was in Canada on a tourist visa, and you can't be in a country on a tourist visa and apply for another country's visa. So I had to go from embassy to embassy, and literally be like, hey, I hold British residency, Indian passport, and I need to apply for a Schengen visa, but I don't have a strict itinerary or enough money in my bank. Can you help? It was a case of that. So yeah, that was interesting. I went from Austrian embassy, German embassy, French embassy, Finnish embassy, Italian embassy, Spanish embassy. Then I went to Danish embassy, and the guy just really felt, and Portuguese embassy, that was the one. Portuguese, they said Austrian embassy called the Portuguese embassy because that was meant to be my entry point, right? And the guy, like, the guy had already called him, and he was just like, yeah, are you the one looking for a Schengen visa? And I was like, yeah, I have all the documentation with me, which I did. And it's like, sorry, we can't
Yeah.
let you in. You're not allowed to apply from this country, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. With the Danish embassy, the guy probably felt really bad for me. He offered me a cup of tea. He looked at my passport. He was like, oh my God, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you. And he said that Iceland and Denmark are under his jurisdiction. So he was like, which visa do you want? And again, at the time, I was still on track to get the world record. So I was like, I can't go to Denmark because then I'll be flying to Portugal. And I didn't know if that counted as going back on myself, even though if it wasn't on bike. So again, I had the rules all messed up in my head. I didn't quite understand them. Now I think about it. Yeah. Now I think about it. I could have gone to Denmark and then flown to Portugal. Instead, I went to Iceland and the weather was crap. Very, very bad. They had this horrible storm. I couldn't see the cars couldn't see me. I was going at 8 kilometers per hour for like 50, 60 something kilometers. And yeah, I got hit by this van, minibus, whatever it was, because, I mean, fair enough, they couldn't see me probably, you know, and obviously Icelandic drivers are just horrible anyway. Anyway, I hit my head on, and it wasn't too bad. Like, I think I just got a whiplash or something, but I wasn't in a good state anyway. I came back and I was like, I just want to go to the next country and keep riding now. Like, I cannot wait for the storm to be over to then start my riding because it's so unpredictable. Yeah, went to Portugal. Yeah, flew to Portugal like pretty much the day after or the day after, and then it was Portugal, Spain and stuff, and then like day 2 in Spain, and I got followed by a couple of people on a motorbike, and they pushed me off my bike. I was mugged at knife point, and I was held at knife point whilst the other guy was like taking stuff from my bags, and I was thrown on the side of this road, and I must have been climbing something because when I fell, it felt like I went down quite a way, and then anyway, the bike was on the top of me when I woke up, and I think I was unconscious for time in between. Got back up, and it was probably a few hours, and then it wasn't late evening, just sun has set kind of thing anymore. It was like actually dark, and with a few and a motel, I was able to get to the hospital, still unable to remember anything from the incident because I've had this hard knock on my head. I kept asking odd questions. I was like, where am I? Like, what's my phone passcode? Well, you know, just weird stuff like that. But yeah, eventually I realized that I had been repeating this number to them, which started with B and ended with a 6. And it was actually the license plate of that vehicle, like the red, what's it called? Is it called license plate, registration number, whatever?
The license plate, the motorcycle.
So apparently I was memorizing it whilst I was held at knife point, just because I was like, need to not do anything stupid. And also, I was trying to figure out if the guy who was actually taking the stuff, if he looked like this Bollywood actor called Akshay Kumar. And I was really trying to like, does he look like him? Like, you know, if someone ever asked me, what would I say he looked like? And I was just like trying to.
I see. You're trying to remember the details.
But in case I was alive, like, was it worth it? Probably not, but I don't know. I just was like trying to really think about anything else but the knife because no, that's just not okay. I even had this little thingy over here from the knife, and weird, bad, really bad. Anyway, I somehow made the weird decision to continue riding from there. I was like, yeah, no, I don't know where home is because my UK visa has now expired, is no longer valid. And my UK residency permit is also stolen, which means that,
Oh
yeah,
God,
that
yeah.
was like a big mess as well. Um, but yeah, basically ended up continuing to ride. And my parents, I don't know, I don't want to go to India. I don't think, had they moved to Oman yet? I don't know. But yeah, at some point my parents moved to Oman, so I don't remember if it was around that time. Um, Continued riding very slow. What was taking me 4 hours before, like I would always aim to do 100 kilometers in 4 hours,
Yeah.
um, but more often than not I wouldn't be able to do that. I would go at 22 km/h pace, so not quite 100 kilometers, probably like 88 kilometers, 90 kilometers, something like that. um, but basically, yeah, what was taking me 4 hours before or around that would take me 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, you know? I was like walking down hills when I would ride up, and I kept puking, couldn't keep food down. And I really, really, really prolonged my recovery. I couldn't balance. If someone honked, that was me done for the
Yeah.
day. I
Yeah.
just sit at the side of the road with that sound going through my head and just
Oh my goodness.
really messing with it. Um, I would just randomly cry a lot, a lot. I mean, I would be on call with some of my friends, um, and I would just cry for hours,
Yeah.
and for no like for no apparent reason, you know. So it was pretty horrible. Um, and I don't have much proof of that happening either, and or like I don't remember where it happened apart from the fact that, oh yeah, like 8 kilometers from this gas station, or
Mhm.
it was really weird, like I didn't remember much. um and yeah, like at that very slow pace, one day my friend said to me, he lives in Finland, or like, well, he now lives in Finland. At the time, he lived in the UK, but he was going to be in Finland for this certain number of days. And he said that there was a possibility, if I rode fast enough, that I could get to see him.
Okay.
And he said to me, like, if there's anyone who I know who can do this, can pull this through, then it's you. And I don't know, just to see my friend, I had to break through that 300-kilometer barrier again, that I was so scared to ride in the dark anymore. So I
Yeah.
had to really, really, really work. So it was, by that time, I'd gone from like around Madrid area to across Spain, across the Pyrenees into France, across France into Belgium. I was in the capital, when I was like, I had this conversation with my friend, and I have to do this to make this work. The first 300k after the concussion took me over 24 hours, but I was like, I have to do this. If I want to see Manu, I have to make this work. Um, and then I kept calling, I was calling my friends, I was calling my family, I was just calling people, keeping on talking, listening to audiobooks, just making sure that I was there in Finland by a certain day. And then in the end, I had like probably less than 24 hours with him, but I was able to see him. Um, and he greeted me with a punnet of grapes because I really love grapes. And yeah, and he took me to climb for climbing, and I was like, I have no energy for this, but I was still like, I had done 22,000 kilometers at that point. And yeah, and like, to think I'd done 22,000 kilometers, I'd had a few really long days, and my friend thought it was a great idea to take me climbing. I didn't climb much, but it was quite funny to think that, oh
That's a good
yeah,
idea.
just in the middle of this. But yeah, and it was also going to be like, I had an 8-day break because I had to apply for my Russian visa. And by that time it was like November, it was winter.
Yeah.
Um, mid-November, I think. But it was proper, like when I got to Russia, it was proper snowy. I went to the Arctic for a hike in between because I couldn't spend 8 days in a city. So on second day, when my friend had gone, I told his mum where I was going. I took a flight to Ivalo, which is like the northernmost airport there. Um, Spent a few days in Inari. Inari, I don't know how to say it. Inari.
Yeah.
Anyway, and went for this winter hike for a few days.
Wow.
Came back and my bike was all set up for with like cross tires. So it wasn't quite winter setup.
Yeah.
It was just cross tires, and pretty much everything else was the same. I just had more winter stuff. So I actually, yeah, had cold weather gear. Um, but yeah, had to ride from there to Ufa in winter,
Oh wow.
and that was something else. Russians are really cool people. I did get asked quite a lot of times for my visa and for my passport and like, identity stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's fair because there were barely any cyclists on those main roads. So, I can see why they wanted to keep checking. But yeah, that was interesting. I got hosted by a 5-star hotel in Russia.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah, I saw that there was a hotel called Lotte Hotel Samara. Um, and I called them from Moscow, where I was really, really struggling with the cold and everything because I didn't have a tent. I was just bivvying
Yeah.
everywhere, and I didn't I didn't know if I was going to be able to sustain that anymore. And I was like, I wasn't liking the small motels and stuff anymore. They were just not very comfortable,
Yeah.
and every time I would go in, I would stay in for so long, I would not want to get out of there. Called this hotel, shared my location with them from the Find My Friends thing
Okay. Yeah.
on Apple. And yeah, I got there and I was given this. They greeted me with, I had a proper big welcome there, and they made me this cake called We Do It. They let me use all of their fancy facilities, gave me a lot of food. It was great. I was there for probably like 2 days because that's just how much I needed it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I wasn't going to get the fastest record anyway. So why not?
Yeah.
And then the last leg to Ufa, and then I flew to India, and I had a lot of miles to cover in India, but I also knew that it wasn't going to be the end of the world because in my head I was like, it's India. This is the final country before, like, this is the country I finished my 29,000 kilometers in.
Yeah.
It can't be too bad. Even if it was 500, it was 5,500 kilometers. No, it was far more than that because I don't remember it anymore. It's probably 5,000, 4.5, 5,000 kilometers in India, something like that. Anyway, but yeah, I was kind of like, can't be too bad, can it? Like, we've done the
Yeah.
most part of it now, and it's just the final few. It's fine. But yeah, I had a good kind of the mentor, the friend that I said, the mentor who was like, oh yeah, it's just 100
You can
miles
do
from
that.
your home.
Yeah.
He joined me for like the last
Amazing.
2,000 kilometers. But yeah, like he obviously, because it was a self-supported ride or whatever for most of it, he wasn't like directly helping me, but it was so good to ride with a friendly face.
Yeah.
It was so good to because to think about it, this guy had seen me like super miserable as a 17-year-old climbing that big old mountain before that, and I suppose that was the last time we had ridden together. So it was crazy to think that now he was seeing me in the last 2,000 kilometers of the hardest and longest ride I've ever done. And, that was something special. That was really good. And then, like, for the last kind of 2 days, I think, yeah, for the last, like, whole day, I'm pretty sure my parents and him in the car were just like cheering me on.
Oh.
And I was still like, I still had all my stuff on me. I was still like unsupported, but they were still like, it was good to see like that my parents were so happy to see me actually ride, because yeah, it was crazy. Like, again, the transition, you know, my parents hadn't seen me as an adult.
Yeah.
They had only seen me as a 17-year-old, not on a bike, but even off a bike.
Yeah.
And then I moved to the UK, I became a different person almost. So to come back and yeah, share those moments with them was really special. But yeah, then flew to Australia and I got a puncture. Like I was on tubeless, I landed and there was sealant everywhere on the
Oh
bike
no.
bag. So
It just gone.
yeah, it was crazy, and I had to go to a gas station to fix that. But I did it quite often, where you know, from the Presta to Schrader valve, like what's it called, adapter that you get,
Yeah.
and you can just go to any gas station and
Up,
just
yeah.
fill it there from there like that. But I did that, but with no sealant in there, so it was I got a puncture pretty soon, and I walked into my finish line. I didn't ride, I walked. And so I come from this community, like basically I come from the state of Maharashtra originally, and the community, like my mother tongue is Marathi. So there was this Marathi community in Perth who hosted a very grand welcome for my finish
Oh,
line.
wonderful.
And it was good. Like my parents were there was a lot of food. And then we went to this hotel and I slept for like 15 hours, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like my parents had to check if I was dead. I was like, literally, I
Just out
would
for the count.
refuse to get out of the bed. My God, that was such a relief. And it was Christmas Day. So I finished on Christmas Eve in the evening. Then it was Christmas Day and everything where I could eat or drink was closed.
Oh yeah.
All the kind of facilities where I could even, like, if I had to go for a swim, and everything was closed. So I just got drunk with my dad in the hotel
that
bar.
Sounds pretty good.
I got some free cocktails, so I was pretty smashed. Then went to India and I had to wait for a month to get my UK visa again. And the only thing was I had to repeat the second term of my second year to get that visa, which I was like, yeah, fine, I'll do it. And then all of my friends were there at the bus station when I got back, and I was just crying. We went to Wagamama, I think, or something like that, or Noodle Bar, or whatever. And all of them were there, and I was just like, it was like I never left.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. But it was so cool. Just, yeah, the whole emotional experience and yeah, the whole emotional experience, the ups and downs, and coming back to familiar space, but feeling so, yeah, it was something else.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah. I mean, I have heard your story before, particularly like the horrific experience you had in Spain and things like that. And I just, yeah, getting back on your bike and completing the ride is just so immense. You know, I think for so many people that would have been it. And the fact that you've still gone and done this, you know, amazing ride, and yeah, it's just tremendous, and it's so inspirational, particularly because you did it at the age you were. And I know you've said since you learned a lot since then, and you know, you kind of look back on yourself and think you should have done things differently, but I think, you know, it's just tremendous. And you've now actually started up your own business around adventuring, haven't you? It's called the Adventure Shed. And I think that's a really cool idea. And I was just wondering what response you've had for that. Have you had people that have, like, what do people ask you? Have you had people going, oh yeah, I saw what you did and I'm really inspired? And what's been kind of the response to that?
The funny thing is, most expeditions that I've expeditions and either polar expeditions or long distance running kind of stuff, And then only recently have I started hearing from people who want to do long distance bike riding, who get in touch about it. So I think that's quite funny how it didn't start from bike riding and then,
That's come later, yeah.
And I launched something called Adventure Planning Blueprint, which is like this all-in-one document where you can just plan from the ideation stage to, if you are in the team management, if you're not, then just task management, and like everything from the ideation stage to that to kind of building all the tiny details from risk assessment, risk management, to raising funds, to telling your story in an efficient way through film, a book, or social media. There's so many ways, and basically all of that information in one document, through this software called Notion. Basically I planned my entire life through that. So basically, yeah, made this adventure planning blueprint, and I don't talk about it on my social media, which I should, because it was completely either word of mouth or just random people finding my website and buying it. But I haven't spoken enough about it on my social media, which I will start doing now. But I think it's a bit like adventure planning blueprint for my own adventures. So yeah, that has got quite a lot of response, and now I'll kind of pick up on that and start talking about it on my social media. But yeah.
No, I think it's really cool, and you've developed so many skills already. Yes, not many people at your age that have gone out and done the things you've done. And I think it's really interesting that a lot of, like, Mark Beaumont, Jenny Graham, a lot of these riders were a lot later in life, and yet you've done all this already. So I can't wait to see what you do next, essentially. And yeah, do you have any plans in the pipeline, or is it all of it see how it goes?
I do have some plans. I was going to do Silk Road Mountain Race. I couldn't do this year because I had some financial issues, but I really want to do Silk Road. But before that, I have this ride planned across Finland, Sweden, and Norway.
Wow.
And yeah, that's either next month or the month after. And I am currently in the wait list for Iditarod Trail Invitational.
Okay.
Not sure if they are actually going to let me in, because apparently, yeah, the entries are full and I'm in the wait list. So fingers crossed, whatever happens. But I really want to race that, and I have some in cold places. So yeah, that's one. And yeah, so that should be fun. I obviously Silk Road and Atlas Mountain Race as well. I want, actually, like, Atlas Mountain Race, I want to do it with a friend of mine who is like my OG adventure partner. Like, I want to do it with her, and see how it goes. But yeah, Silk Road, I definitely want to finish. And there's smaller within the UK adventures that I have quite a lot of. There's a running thing that I've planned. There's a 500-mile run across Scottish Highlands.
Wow.
Well, it's a loop that I put together and I really want to do. I'm pretty sure I cut it down from. I planned it from like 500 miles, and now I've cut it down to 500 kilometers, because I'm just like, yeah, no, 500 miles for the first big run is like a bit much. Yeah, there's also like a hike across the Arctic hike that I did when I was doing my Russian visa. I want to do a longer version of it, and probably a more efficient, where I don't keep slipping off and fall on my butt. Like basically a longer version of that Arctic hike, because the Arctic fascinates me.
Yeah.
And I want to do as many expeditions over there as possible. I want to do a bike ride across Svalbard, because again, as I said, the Arctic fascinates me. And I know polar bears can eat you, but I want to see them in person. I want to see them in real life.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And yeah, like there's like quite a lot of Arctic stuff that's in my head that needs to like yeah, I want to go out there and like, you know, be really cold and do those things.
Oh my goodness, there's so many plans there, so I cannot wait to see what you get up to in the future. It's really exciting.
Hopefully at least half of them happen.
Well, even if a quarter of them happen, it would still be amazing. So that's all really, really exciting to hear. Just before we finish up, I've got a bit of tandem trivia questions, if that's okay. They're not too bad, I promise.
Okay, well then.
So the first one is, have you ever ridden a tandem?
No, I haven't.
You must put that on the list. You must certainly try.
Absolutely, I want to ride one.
And then if you could ride a tandem with anybody, they could be alive, dead, fictional, whatever, who would you put on your tandem with you?
Sir Brian May from Queen.
Yes. Oh, Stevie is a massive Queen fan, so my front half Stevie, he will be so impressed with that answer. Do you say you put him on the front as well, or the back?
Yeah,
front. On the front. Awesome. Fantastic. And then on our rides, we often say like we're joined by the frame, like we're always together. But is there anything on your rides that you can't be without? Is there like a creature comfort? Is there a bit of kit, a bit of food? Is there something that you always like to take with you?
Ooh, interesting. There's a lot. My hairbrush.
Yeah. No, that's
it's weird, I know, but yeah, hairbrush. No, I take it everywhere. Yeah. I don't like my hair.
Well, I don't know if you've seen a picture of Stevie. He has got a rather massive beard. So I think he's definitely going to be taking his beard brush with him. Like we might, you know, do away with some other vital piece of equipment, but and take the beard brush instead. I think that could happen. So yeah, I get that.
Hairbrush and deodorant. Yeah. I know some people like are against deodorants, but I stink. When there's like a good smell around me, I feel really fresh and I wanna do good. And I think like that's another one.
That's fair enough. And then just my final question essentially is, why should we ride around together ride around the world together on a tandem and break the world record?
Because you're gonna have a lot of fun and you really don't want to miss out on them, because that's about starting and finishing at the same place. And there is something special about crossing countries and time zones and, you know, experiencing those differences in culture, even when you can't fully immerse in them. There's something about it that you don't want to miss.
Oh, that's amazing, and it's been absolutely tremendous to hear about your story and your adventures. And I feel like I could sit talking to you about it for hours and hours, but it's been absolutely fab, and so I can't wait to see what you get up to as well, and to follow you on whatever you get up to next.
Thank you so much, and good luck. You guys are gonna smash it. This is so cool. Like, I am very excited to follow your journey, and you're gonna smash it.
Oh, thank you.